Taxes on mutual funds are easy to understand and can help you increase the return on your investment tremendously. The tax basically depends on the kind of fund that you invested in and the period for which you've held it. Let's start first with the kind of fund. There are basically three kinds of mutual funds that you can invest in. Equity mutual funds, which are those that invest at least 65% in Indian equities. There are debt mutual funds that invest in debt and securities and treasury bills, etc., and which have less than a 65% holding in Indian equities. And the third kind are the hybrid mutual funds. These are either equity oriented or debt oriented. If they have at least 65% in equities, then it's an equity oriented mutual fund. For example, an aggressive hybrid fund would be one that is an equity oriented debt fund, whereas a conservative or a balanced hybrid fund would be one that is more debt oriented because it will have a less than 65% holding in Indian equities. The second factor that will determine the taxes is whether it's for a short term or a long term. Again, in the context of taxation, short term is something which is held for less than 1 year, whereas long term is more than 1 year. So the tax on an equity mutual fund which has been held for less than a period of 1 year is 15%. Irrespective of the slab you're in, that tax has to be paid. And the tax on a fund that's been held for over 1 year is 10%. In the case of debt mutual funds, the tax is the same whether you've held it for a short term or a long term. The entire profit that you've booked is added on to your income and taxed according to the slab you're in. So if you're in a 10% slab, you'll pay 10% on the profit that you've made. If you're in a higher slab, you'll pay according to that slab. Hybrid funds, if they're equity oriented, then they will be taxed like equity mutual funds. If they're debt oriented, the money will be added on to your annual income and taxed accordingly. This knowledge can be useful to you because in the case of equity mutual funds, you're allowed to book in 1 lakh worth of profits every year without tax. This is also called tax harvesting. So let me explain this to you with an example. Suppose you've got 10 lakhs invested in an equity mutual fund and that fund has now grown to, let us say, 11 lakhs. You can sell that entire amount today, get the money into your bank and not pay any tax on it because the profit that you've made is 1 lakh and 1 lakh is exempt on tax. The very next day you can take this 11 lakhs and go and invest it back into the very same fund that you'd taken out the money from. The next year, actually not exactly next year, but after 366 days, you can go back and repeat the process again. That means you can take out 1 lakh every year and not pay tax. Now compare this to if you wouldn't have done it. Suppose you put 10 lakhs into a fund, let us say 1 year and 10 days ago, and now it's become 11 lakhs, but you say, hey, no, I'm not going to touch it now. I'm going to wait for it to grow some more. You wait for it to grow to 12 lakhs and then you say, okay, now I'm going to sell it. When you sell it, your profit is 2 lakhs. You'll end up paying a 10% long-term capital gain tax on that, which will get taxed at 20,000 rupees. Whereas, if you've done tax harvesting and you sold it every year and booked 1 lakh worth of profit, then you wouldn't have had to pay that 20,000 rupees as tax. The third tax that you should know about is the tax on dividends. Now, dividends are taxed according to the slab that you're in. So, if you've gotten about 4,000 rupees worth of dividends from your mutual funds, you have to add that onto your income and it will be taxed according to the slab in which you find yourself in. And if you've received more than 5,000 rupees worth of dividends in a year, then the mutual fund company will deduct 10% TDS. This is just tax deducted at source. It's not an extra tax that you're paying. You can claim this amount that's been already deducted when you file your returns at the end of the year. Hi, I'm Avnish. I'm a mutual fund distributor. If you'd like to gain from my expertise and want to invest through me, then you can find my details in the link in description below.